Welcome back everyone, we're now on to tier 3 of the weird paleontology iceberg. This tier definitely has more weirded things to explore about our ancient life, so I'm excited to get into it. Also make sure to check out tier 1 and 2 if you haven't already. Alright, let's just get into the video now with the first entry. Oldaway Man. The Oldaway Man refers to a complete skeleton discovered by German paleontologist Hans Reck at Olduvai Gorge, Tanzania in 1913. Initially, Reck believed the skeleton to be a Middle Pleistocene Homo sapiens, a claim that if true would have really altered our understanding of human evolution. This was because of the skeleton's location in a geological layer known as Bed II, which Reck dated to more than 150,000 years ago, meaning it would have been the oldest known skeleton of Homo sapiens. However, by 1932, this theory was largely dismissed. The skeleton was reassessed and determined to be a modern Homo sapiens, buried around 20,000 years ago rather than being from the Middle Pleistocene era. This conclusion was supported by the lack of other similar remains in the geological layer, so while it was an exciting find, it was generally based on misconceptions of its actual timeline. Toba eruption caused genetic bottleneck. The Toba eruption, a massive supervolcano event that occurred around 74,000 years ago in present-day Indonesia, is often linked to a theory of a genetic bottleneck in human evolution. The theory basically suggests that the eruption caused a severe reduction in the human population due to its impact on the global climate, potentially leading to a 10-year volcanic winter that destroyed food sources. This event is thought to have reduced the human population to between just 3,000 and 10,000 individuals. However, some researchers argue that the evidence check doesn't really support a significant population decrease coinciding with the Toba eruption. For instance, ancient stone tools found in southern India, both above and below a thick layer of Toba ash, suggest that the local population might have actually survived the eruption. Also, advancements in genomics and climate modeling, as well as new paleo-environmental samples, have led to alternative explanations for the genetic bottleneck that was observed. One such example is the founder effect, which basically says genetic variation can also be caused from small populations creating their own groups from pre-existing large ones, leading to a genetic bottleneck that might have been observed there. Venusian dinosaurs. The concept of dinosaurs on Venus comes from the early days of astronomy, when Venus was shrouded in mystery due to its dense cloud cover. This led to a bunch of wild speculations about its potential habitability. Some imagined Venus as a swampy, dinosaur-filled world, an idea that found its way into various science fiction stories. For instance, Gustavus W. Pope's 1985 novel, Journey to Venus, depicted a lush Venusian landscape inhabited by dinosaur-like beasts. This idea was also popularized in March 1950 issue of the Coronet magazine, which featured a story about a family vacationing on Venus, visiting a zoo filled with dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures. However, these speculations were put to rest when the Venera IV and Mariner 5 probes landed on Venus in 1965, revealing the planet's true inhospitable nature. While the idea of Venusian dinosaurs is scientifically unfounded, it still remains a pretty cool concept in science fiction. Bruhatcaeosaurus. Bruhatcaeosaurus, meaning huge-bodied lizard, is a potentially enormous dinosaur discovered in the Kalamedu Formation of India. Initially classified as a theropod, it was later identified as a Titosauronian sauropod, a group of long-necked herbivorous dinosaurs. The dinosaur's size is a subject of debate. Some estimates suggest it could have been longer than 35 meters and weighed over 80 tons. Its tibia, or leg bone, is believed to be 30% larger than that of Argentinosaurus, another massive dinosaur. If these estimates are correct, Bruhatcaeosaurus might have been one of the largest land animals to ever exist, rivaling the size of the blue whale. However, these estimates are based on fragmentary remains, and the original fossils have reportedly disintegrated. Some researchers have even suggested that the bones might actually be pieces of petrified wood. This, combined with a lack of comprehensive documentation of the original discovery, has led to some controversy and mystery surrounding the dinosaur's true existence and size. Vitalism. Vitalism is an ancient philosophical concept dating back to at least Aristotle's era, proposing that living organisms possess a distinct essence or vital force that separates them from inanimate matter. Vitalism was widely influential in medieval Europe, serving as a prevailing belief about the nature of life. It was further developed during the emergence of modern science in the 16th and 17th centuries, as a contrast to the mechanistic view on life. Vitalism asserts that the functions of a living organism cannot be explained by physical and chemical forces alone, suggesting that life is in some part self-determining. In the 18th and 19th centuries, vitalism became a topic of debate among biologists. Vitalist biologists proposed hypotheses to show inadequacies with mechanistic explanations, but their experiments failed to provide support for vitalism. Today, biologists consider vitalism to have been refuted by empirical evidence, and is often regarded as pseudoscience. Nuclear tektites. Tektites are glassy objects shaped like pebbles or droplets, believed to form when meteorites strike the Earth's surface. These impacts generate immense heat and pressure, causing the surrounding rock to melt and eject molten material into the atmosphere. This material cools as it travels through the air, solidifying into tektites before landing back on Earth. The mystery surrounding tektites' origin, combining with their glass-like appearance, led to various theories about their formation. One such intriguing theory arose from the resemblance between tektites and a substance known as dessert glass, formed during atomic bomb tests. Some theorists, drawing connections between tektites and the glass created by modern atomic detonations, speculated about the possibility of prehistoric nuclear explosions created by an advanced ancient civilization. This speculative idea suggested that ancient people might have possessed advanced technology and used nuclear weapons in the distant past. However, current geological and scientific studies of tektites consistently support their formation as a result of meteor impacts. However, current geological studies show their formation as a result of meteor impacts, rather than an ancient nuclear explosion, so it's still just a theory out there. Silurian hypothesis. The Silurian hypothesis is a thought experiment proposed by astrophysicists Adam Frank and Gavin Schmitz in 2018. It explores the possibility of an ancient civilization existing on Earth before humans, and if it did, how we'd be able to tell if it actually existed or not. The hypothesis is named after the Silurians, a fictional series from the BBC series Doctor Who had an advanced civilization before humanity. The hypothesis questions modern science's ability to detect evidence of such a civilization, which could have existed several million years ago. The most probable cues of finding such a civilization could be carbon, radioactive elements, or temperature variation. However, finding direct evidence such as technological artifacts is unlikely due to the rarity of fossilization and the constant changes of Earth's surface. The Silurian hypothesis also considers the kinds of signals our own civilization would leave if we disappeared, and someone looked for a civilization 10 or 20 million years from now. The researchers conducted that our probable impact on the planet will be detectable, but in some ways hard to distinguish from other various events in geological record. Let me know your guys' thoughts on the experiment, since it's pretty fascinating to think about. Paleomicrobes currently thawing. Alright, this one's kinda like straight out of a movie. Basically, because of human-induced climate change, the melting of polar ice caps poses a potential risk of ancient viruses being released from their frozen state. These viruses, known as paleoviruses, have been trapped in ice for thousands or even millions of years. The concern arises from the possibility that as the ice thaws, these ancient viruses could be released into the environment. This could potentially lead to unforeseen consequences, including the introduction of new viruses into the ecosystem, causing risks to both wildlife and human health. The consequences of this microbial awakening are still not fully understood though, and scientists are working to learn more about the potential impacts. It does sound really scary though, knowing that viruses are out there that could potentially awake after thousands of years. Humpback Spinosaurus. Spinosaurus was initially thought to have a hump on its back, similar to a bison. This theory was based on the discovery of tall, thick spines on top of the dinosaur's vertebrae. The first partial skeleton of Spinosaurus was found in 1912 in Egypt, and the paleontologist Ernest Stromer described it as a spine lizard from Egypt due to these distinctive spines. He theorized that these spines formed a fatty hump, a feature never before seen in a carnivorous dinosaur at the time. However, in 1944, the fossils were destroyed during a bombing raid, leaving much of the original Spinosaurus remains lost. The humpback theory was later challenged, with some scientists proposing that Spinosaurus and other dinosaurs with similar spines were not sail-backed but humpbacked. This idea suggested that if Spinosaurus had a thick hump, it probably walked on all fours instead of balancing on two legs, like other large theropods. However, this theory still is ongoing and hasn't been really universally accepted. Omega point. The omega point is a concept that envisions the universe's future trajectory, where the entirety of the cosmos moves to a final point of unification. This idea was proposed by the French Jesuit Catholic priest Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. He described the omega point as a theoretical event marking the culmination of the universe's evolution, where all existence converges to a singular, unified state. Teilhard de Chardin's concept of the omega point has been associated with the idea of singularity, where the use of science and technology will significantly enhance the human state, leading to a leap out of our biology. In simpler terms though, the omega point is like a destination at the end of a journey, where everything in the universe comes together. It's kind of like a grand finale of a fireworks show. Some people have also connected the mega point with the idea of beings reaching a level of intelligence where they transcend time and space. This concept has sparked various interpretations and discussions, and it continues to be a thought-provoking idea in fields like philosophy, science, and theology. Dragons are genetic memories of dinosaurs. The idea that dragons are genetic memories of dinosaurs just sounds like a really cool theory just from the name. The theory, popularized by pop science writer Carl Sagan in his book Dragons of Eden, suggests that dragon mythology stems from a genetic memory imprinted on the brains of our mammalian ancestors, who lived in fear of dinosaurs. The theory proposes that the ancient legends of dragons, found in diverse cultures around the world, could be based on real-life encounters with dinosaurs by early humans. Some proponents of this idea point to the similarities between the descriptions of dragons in various mythologies and the physical characteristics of certain dinosaur species. They argue that the sheer number of names given to dragons or dinosaurs worldwide builds a strong argument that dragon legends reflect encounters with real creatures. Additionally, carvings, sculptures, paintings, and other forms of art from various cultures depict creatures that sort of resemble specific dinosaurs. 36,000 year cycle. The 36,000 year cycle, as proposed by Plato, represents the early understanding of geological time. Plato's notion of a looping 36,000 year golden age followed by 36,000 years of destruction and chaos influenced cosmological theories until the 17th century. This cyclic view of time was prevalent in many cultures before the widespread acceptance of a linear understanding of history like we know now. The transition to a linear view of Earth's history, as exemplified by James Ussher's dating of the creation to 4004 BC, marked a significant shift. However, there were flaws in Ussher's dating that became apparent, and so cyclic visions of Earth's history came back as the main thing. Even Charles Lyell, a prominent geologist, talked about the cyclic nature of Earth's history, suggesting that the age of dinosaurs, like a clock, would come again in the future. With techniques now though like radiometric dating to determine the ages of fossils, we're properly able to establish the linear timeline of Earth's history. I wonder what people would have thought back then though when the idea that dinosaurs might have come back was introduced. Captain Beauclerc's prehistoric horse haunting. This entry is about the interesting story of Captain Beauclerc's encounter with the alleged ghost of a prehistoric horse. While visiting Eastover Hall, Captain Beauclerc apparently stumbled upon fossilized horse bones within a cave on the estate's ground. According to his account, that very night he experienced a terrifying encounter with what he believed to be the haunting spirit of the prehistoric horse. Beauclerc claimed that the ghostly presence chased him, causing him to faint from fear. When he went to return the bones to the original resting place in the ancient cave, the ghost didn't appear again. When people went to investigate this, various species of giant fossil horses had been discovered in Europe, but the exact type of horse mentioned in Beauclerc's narrative remains unspecified and unconfirmed, leaving it as a mystery in both folklore and paleontology. Abiogenic oil. The abiogenic oil theory suggests that oil is not formed from prehistoric organic matter, but instead originates from deep underground microbial communities called the deep hot biosphere. This idea doesn't really have any academic support, but instead it's been used by the fossil fuel industry as public relations to obscure the causes of climate change. The theory proposes that oil is formed inorganically, deep within the earth, rather than being the result of slow transformation of animal and plant matter into hydrocarbons. Oil companies use the abiogenic oil theory to their advantage by emphasizing their competitive advantage in oil and gas production. This approach is basically intended to maintain the relevance of their fossil fuel businesses. By promoting the idea that oil is not slowly derived from prehistoric organic matter, these companies seek to downplay the urgency of transitioning away from fossil fuels, which we know is advocated a bunch for to prevent climate change from rising. William Denton. William Denton was a 19th century geologist who gained notoriety for his unorthodox approach to geological research. He was known for incorporating occult spiritualistic methods, particularly the practice of psychometry, into his work. Psychometry is a technique that claims to extract knowledge telepathically from objects, often by touch. According to Denton, he or a fellow sensitive would hold a fossil object in their hands and supposedly receive visions or insights about its deep history and the Earth's ancient past. Denton claimed to have experienced intense visionary episodes where he allegedly witnessed the rapid unfolding of the Earth's history, as well as moments of uncovering precise details about specific rock strata. He even went as far as authoring several textbooks on geology based on these unconventional methods. Lost world in deep sea. Before the 1960s, there was a widespread belief that life in the deepest parts of the ocean, known as the benthic zone, was extremely sparse. Some scientists even thought that the creatures found there were just temporary migrants from shallower depths. There was also a theory suggesting that due to the harsh conditions in the benthic zone, life forms there evolved at an exceptionally slow pace. Early explorations like those conducted by HMS Challenger and naturalist BB's Biosphere expeditions revealed strange and unique creatures from the deep sea. This led to the idea that the deep ocean might be a sanctuary for prehistoric life that had become extinct elsewhere. Some speculated that organisms from periods like the Carboniferous or Cambrian might actually still exist in these depths. Ernest Haeckel also proposed the existence of a primordial form of life called a Monora on the seafloor, suggesting that new species occasionally evolved from this mass. Nowadays, the concept of an abyssal lost world has been debunked though, since as we know, the deep sea hosts a more active and diverse ecosystem than previously thought. Hector's Ichthyosaur. The story of Hector's Ichthyosaur tells of a potentially gigantic vertebrate that was lost in a shipwreck off the coast of New Zealand. According to Hector's estimates, this ichthyosaur would have been significantly larger than any known ichthyosaur, possibly surpassing even the size of the largest known one, Shastasaurus. If Hector's estimates were correct, this ichthyosaur could have been a contender for the title of the largest animal ever to exist. Unfortunately though, due to the loss in the shipwreck, further study and verification of its size and existence became impossible, so it's basically a mystery out there. Some sources suggest that it might have approached the size of a blue whale, meaning it really would have been a massive creature. Tetrapteryx. William Beebe, a prominent American naturalist, proposed the concept of a four-winged glider, or Tetrapteryx, in 1915. This theory suggested that the earliest bird was a four-winged ancestor depicted as a dino bird who lived in the trees. According to Beebe, this stage represented a transitional phase in which the wing bones increased in size, the hand bone fused, and the fingers became covered in flesh and tendons. This stage was envisioned as an intermediate step between non-avian dinosaurs and modern birds, depicting a creature with four wings. Beebe's hypothesis was largely missed at the time. However, with the recent paradigm shift in bird evolution and the discovery of the four-winged Microraptor, Beebe's Tetrapteryx concept has now gained renewed attention and support. The idea of a four-winged stage in bird evolution has now been revisited in light of new evidence. Beringer Stones. The Beringer Stones were a collection of limestone pieces that were carved into the shape of various fictitious animals and other unlikely objects. They were discovered in 1975 by Professor Johann Bartholomeus Adam Beringer, who believed them to be fossils. Some of the stones bore the name of God in Hebrew, leading Beringer to suggest that they might be of divine origin. Beringer, a royal physician and dean of the Faculty of Medicine at the Uni of Würzburg, published a manuscript on the discovery of these remarkable fossils, which depicted all manner of unlikely things, from copulating frogs, spiders in their webs, tiny mermaids, and again the Hebrew script spelling the name for God. He concluded that the fossils were signatures of God, or possibly artifacts carved by antediluvian pagans. The revelation that the stones were fake led to a huge scandal, and Beringer's reputation was irreparably damaged. He went as far as even suing the perpetrators, which actually ended up being two of Beringer's colleagues, J. Ignaz Roderick and George von Eckhart. Atlantean mammoths. In a speculative theory explored by Robin Collins in the book Did Spacemen Colonize the Earth?, mammoth fossils discovered in marine deposits are linked to the legendary lost civilization of Atlantis. Collins puts forward an unconventional interpretation suggesting that these mammoth remains could be evidence associated with the fate of Atlantis. According to Collins, these mammoths were potentially domesticated by the inhabitants of the lost underwater city. He also proposed some wild theories that these mammoths were actually the result of genetic experimentations conducted by malicious aliens under sophisticated outer space laboratories. Collins also extends his theory to propose a connection between the extinction of dinosaurs and the activities of these ancient aliens. He suggests that they were responsible for the dinosaurs' extinction by using powerful atomic weapons carelessly, ending up in the eradication of dinosaurs. This fringe theory essentially offers a controversial narrative, combining elements of prehistoric creatures, mythical civilizations, and alleged extraterrestrial intervention. Bond's Stegosaurus. Proposed by an early paleontologist, Bond's portrayal differs significantly from the widely accepted understanding of Stegosaurus. Unlike the traditional image of a four-legged dinosaur with distinct plates on its back and a thygomizer at the tip of its tail, Bond's Stegosaurus depicted the creature in a notably different light. This depiction presented Stegosaurus as a semi-bipedal animal, suggesting a posture more similar to that of a pangolin, an animal known for its armored exterior. In Bond's representation, the thygomizer horns, usually found only at the tail's end, were extended along the entire length of the body, creating an unusual and striking appearance. This depiction introduced a novel perspective, but it greatly contrasted with the subsequent and more scientifically grounded reconstructions of Stegosaurus. Bond's Stegosaurus is a noteworthy example of how early interpretations in paleontology sometimes diverged from later, more accurate representations as the field developed and new discoveries were made. Eozoan Canadense. The Eozoan Canadense, initially described by John William Dawson in 1865, was a peculiar finding thought to be a massive shelled protozoan, considered by many as the earliest known life form ever on Earth. The fossils were believed to have been unearthed from limestone blocks and were deemed a vital discovery in understanding the planet's ancient life forms, and was a pretty big deal earning the name the Dawn Animal. However, the interpretations surrounding Eozoan Canadense underwent a great shift in 1894. Further investigation revealed that these structures were not actually traces of ancient life, but were instead formed by recent geological processes. It was determined that these features were not remnants of ancient organisms, but rather patterns created by the interaction of magma with limestone, a mineral formation known as pseudofossils, like we touched upon before. Spinal catastrophism. Spinal catastrophism is a concept that correlates the evolutionary history of organisms with the structure of the spinal column. This theory suggests that various segments of the spinal column represent different epochs in evolutionary development, mirroring evolutionary events such as mass extinctions. Advocates of this theory propose that different vertebrae along the spine correspond to specific periods in evolutionary history, symbolizing significant milestones or transitions in the species' lineage. Moreover, proponents of the spinal catastrophism, including scholars like Bulk and Owen, extend this concept to the skull, considering it as an extension of the spinal column. They interpreted certain highly modified vertebrae as contributing to the formation and structure of the skull. This theory implies that the entire skeletal structure, particularly the spinal column in the skull, encapsulates the evolutionary journey of an organism. Thomas Moynihan's book, titled Spinal Catastrophism, delves into the historical trajectory and development of this theory, tracing its origins, evolution, and the various perspectives behind it. I'll link it down below if anyone's interested in learning more about the theory. Big Paleo. Big Paleo is a phrase used by certain groups, notably creationists and individuals who doubt the existence of dinosaurs, to criticize what they perceive as the intentional concealment or suppressions of evidence related to creationism, the presence of giants, or the existence of living dinosaurs. According to proponents of this belief, a select group of influential paleontologists, referred to as Big Paleo, actively suppresses or overlooks evidence that contradicts established scientific theories, particularly within the field of paleontology. The alleged motive behind this suppression is to maintain the dominance of mainstream scientific narratives and prevent the wider spreading of information that challenges these established scientific views. It's kind of similar to the concept of Smithsonian suppression that we mentioned in Tier 1, which again alleges that the Smithsonian Institution engages in similar activities of intentionally concealing archaeological discoveries. Tetrapothomo, human origins in South America. Tetrapothomo was a term coined by Alice Hrdlicka, who claimed to have discovered 6 distinct prehistoric human species in Argentina. Each of these proposed species was named according to their numerical position in a sequence supposedly leading to modern humans. Tetrapothomo was attributed as the 4th in the sequence. Hrdlicka's assertions outlined in his book attempted to argue for the origins of humans in South America based on these fossils. However, subsequent research and analysis by other scientists contradicted Hrdlicka's claims. Later investigations revealed that the fossils identified as Tetrapothomo and the other species were actually remains of modern Homo sapiens. There was no credible evidence to support the existence of a new or distinct species. The initial conclusions drawn by Hrdlicka were found to be inaccurate, leading to rejection of his proposed species sequence. Owen's archetype theory. In Richard Owen's 1849 lecture titled On the Nature of Limbs, he proposed the concept of animal archetypes to explain the similarities observed in the limb structures of various vertebrates. According to Owen, these shared characteristics, such as the comparable bone structures found in the flippers of dolphins, the wings of bats, and the hands of humans, were not evidence of a common evolutionary ancestor. Instead, he suggested that they represented different manifestations of a transcendental or idealized form he termed the vertebrate archetype. Basically, for Owen, the presence of similar skeletal elements in different creatures was not indicative of evolutionary relationships. Rather, he conceptualized these shared features as different expressions of a fundamental blueprint or original archetype. This archetype, according to Owen, was a metaphysical or divine design that served as a blueprint for the structure of vertebrates' limbs, emphasizing form over function and the explanation of anatomical similarities among different species. Planet X killed dinosaurs. The Nibiru hypothesis is a speculative idea suggesting that a purported hidden planet named Nibiru, sometimes referred to as Planet X, periodically passes to Earth's orbit within our solar system. According to his theory, as Nibiru approaches, its gravitational effects cause significant disturbances, leading to cataclysmic events such as mass extinctions, including the extinction of the dinosaurs. This concept draws parallels with other hypotheses like the Shiva hypothesis and Nemesis, linking celestial events with major extinction events on Earth. However, like the other celestial event theories we touched upon before, this theory remains part of pseudoscientific ideas about Earth's history and cosmic events. Aristotelian petrifying fluid. The Aristotelian theory of petrification fluid was an ancient idea attributed to the Greek philosopher Aristotle, dating back to early observations on the nature and explanation of fossils. In Aristotle's worldview, fossils were mysterious remnants found within rocks and minerals, believed to have been formed through a unique process. He proposed the existence of a mysterious petrifying fluid that had the apparent capability to gradually transform the organic matter of deceased organisms into stone over long periods. This fluid, according to Aristotle's speculation, was responsible for the petrification or lithification of once living creatures, eventually giving rise to the preserved structures that we now know as fossils. Despite its antiquity and eventual impact on early paleontological thinking, this hypothesis, steeped in metaphysical ideas, ultimately proved to be an oversimplified explanation for the complex processes involved in the fossilization of organisms. Nowadays, we know of different processes like mineralization, sedimentation, and tectonic activities occurring over extensive periods to create fossils. Franzvillian biota. The Franzvillian biota, also known as Gambaniata, are among the oldest multicellular life forms discovered by French geologist Abdulrazak El-Abani in Gabon. They date back approximately 2.1 billion years, marking a significant milestone in the history of life on Earth. These organisms have a peculiar shape resembling two rounded discs with features such as tube structures and petal-like extensions, despite their underwater habitat. Understanding these ancient life forms has proven challenging though, leading to various interpretations. Some scientists suggest that they might resemble seafloor mats akin to algae, while others compare them to slime mold or early ancestors of later Ediacaran creatures with similar appearances. The most intriguing aspect of these creatures lies in their time period isolation. After their apparent extinction, there's an insane gap of 1.5 billion years until the appearance of the next known examples of multicellular life during the Ediacaran period. This separation implies that the Gambaniata might have been unique experiments in early multicellular life that vanished long before the emergence of modern life forms. Marine regression killed dinosaurs. This theory suggests that during the late Cretaceous period, there was a significant drop in global sea levels, causing the exposure of vast portions of the continental shelf. This event led to widespread marine extinctions due to the sudden reduction in underwater habitats. Additionally, this sea level regression likely resulted in sudden climate changes, causing extreme weather conditions such as increased aridity and higher temperatures on land. Some proponents of this theory even argue that these environmental shifts caused by the sea level regression were responsible for the extinction of dinosaurs. The theory is still ongoing though in scientific research, so it falls as more of a fringe theory in this iceberg chart. Archaeopteryx faked, Hoyle. Fred Hoyle, a noted astrophysicist, presented a controversial argument suggesting that the iconic Archaeopteryx fossils were faked. In his book, Hoyle pointed out what he interpreted as cracks indicating that a bird skeleton had been attached to a dinosaur skeleton, suggesting potential forgery similar to the Piltdown man hoax. This accusation challenged the authenticity of one of the most significant transitional fossils in paleontology, commonly regarded as a critical piece of evidence for the evolutionary link between dinosaurs and birds. Also, Hoyle, in his later works, ventured into more radical ideas, proposing an alternative to evolution. He theorized that organisms underwent rapid mutations caused by viruses that were born in space, instead of gradual evolutionary processes. In this unconventional concept, he suggested that these viruses had facilitated the transformation of dinosaurs into mammals at the end of the Cretaceous period. However, these ideas went against widely accepted scientific understanding and lacked evidence, positioning Hoyle's theories as outliers in the field of evolutionary biology. Leon Margulis' controversial theories. Leon Margulis, a prominent microbiologist, introduced a bunch of scientific theories that were met with skepticism and controversy during her career. Her notable theory, symbiogenesis or endosymbiotic theory, initially considered fringe science, proposed that complex life forms evolved from the symbiotic merging of free-living cells into collaborate communities. Margulis proposed that cell organelles like mitochondria and chloroplasts were once independent organisms that gradually integrated into cells through symbiosis. Additionally, Margulis was an early proponent of the Gaia hypothesis, which suggests that the Earth functions as a self-regulated system. This theory has evolved into mainstream Earth systems theory, contributing to our understanding of the interconnectedness and regulation of Earth systems. However, Margulis faced considerable resistance and criticism for her other unconventional ideas throughout her career, leading her to be seen as a scientific rebel. Later in her career, her views became more controversial. For instance, during the AIDS epidemic, she controversially proposed that the disease was not caused by a virus, but was a misidentified strain of syphilis, a position that contradicted the prevailing scientific consensus. Additionally, she was involved in publishing a controversial journal article saying that larval and adult stages in insects had evolved from entirely different organisms. These viewpoints were largely criticized and also considered outliers in the scientific community. Cosmozoa Richter. In 1985, a scientist named Richter introduced an interesting idea known as cosmozoa. This theory proposed that microscopic spores, or protoplasm, existed within cosmic dust, floating through the vastness of the universe. According to Richter, these tiny entities, named cosmozoa, were believed to have seeded Earth during different periods in history. It's kind of like the idea of panspermia, which we talked about before, which suggests that life exists throughout the cosmos and can be distributed between celestial bodies, such as planets via comets, meteorites, or other space debris. Similarly, Cosmozoa proposed that these microscopic life forms traveled through space within cosmic dust and eventually found their way to Earth, potentially contributing to the origin or evolution of life on our planet. This concept was ahead of its time and foreshadowed later ideas in science, such as Fred Hoyle's space virus theory, which also proposed that life's origins might have cosmic connections. While Richter's theory of cosmozoa was definitely interesting, scientific understanding and evidence regarding the origin of life have evolved a bunch since then. Sauropod trunks. The concept of sauropods, the super long-necked dinosaurs like Brachiosaurus, having a proboscis or trunk similar to modern elephants or tapirs, is an idea proposed by some paleontologists. This hypothesis stems from observations of certain features in the cranial or head anatomy of some sauropods. Evidence suggesting the possibility of a trunk-like structure in sauropods comes from the nostrils located on the top of their skulls. These nostrils are placed higher up on their head compared to most other dinosaurs, similar to the positioning of nostrils in elephants and tapirs, which have trunks. Additionally, some sauropods possess elongated, downward curving teeth that might have been used for grasping or plucking vegetation, hinting at a potential function similar to what a trunk would serve. The absence of direct fossil evidence for such a soft tissue structure makes this idea speculative though. Soft tissues like trunks rarely fossilize, leaving scientists to rely on clues from bones and other cranial features to basically make educated guesses. Martian paleontology. In 1984, scientists discovered a meteorite on Earth known as ALH A4001, believed to have originated from Mars. This particular meteorite was formed during a time when Mars likely had liquid water on its surface. Upon examining this meteorite, researchers identified tiny, worm-like structures called nanobees. In 1996, a NASA research team suggested that these nanobees might be evidence of ancient extraterrestrial life on Mars. This assertion sparked a bunch of excitement and debate within the scientific community and the public about the possibility of life beyond Earth. The mainstream consensus among scientists, though, leans towards the belief that these nanobees are more likely to be inorganic or non-biological in nature. The skepticism arises because similar microscopic structures resembling nanobees have been found in other Martian rocks located outside the habitability zone, periods when Mars had no liquid water even present. Additionally, various natural geological processes can create features that resemble biological structures. These can include mineral formations, chemical reactions, or other non-biological mechanisms that might mimic the appearance of ancient microbial life. Alright, thank you all for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in tier 4. Bye.